time everybody, Marcus? Okay, Jed, if you want to follow it up, let us know when it goes on. Okay. Hang on, Jed. We're going to close out our first... Okay, we're on. This is September 3rd, 2013. It's our City Council meeting at 7 p.m. or just after at City Hall, 200 North Lake Street, Cadillac, Michigan 49601. The meeting is called to order at this time, and I would ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public comments are open for the regular meeting. It is requested that comment time be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to come forward should do so at this time. We do have a public comment at the end of the meeting. And our meeting shouldn't be as long as usual tonight.
We don't have any roll call?
I apologize.
Maybe we don't have to since we're already at it.
Let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Sure. Councilmember Shippers.
Here.
Councilmember Stevens.
Here.
Councilmember Melma.
Here.
Councilmember Spellman.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Let me go back here. Approval of the agenda for tonight. And actually, I do think we want to move up one thing and add something to our closed session.
Okay.
Mr. Holmer, do you want to discuss what that is?
That would be to discuss a confidential written legal opinion with the city attorney.
Okay. So that will be added to our agenda. Any other changes? And hearing none, let's get a roll call on this, please.
Councilmember Spellman.
Sorry. Thank you.
With the addition as noted in the closed session.
All right. And is there support?
Support.
There's a motion and support, and now may we have a roll call?
No problem. Councilmember Spellman.
Yes.
Councilmember Melma.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Motion carried. We do have an agenda. Sorry about that. Public comments are now appropriate, and I will ask again if anyone wishes to come forward at this time to please do so. Seeing no one move again, second chance. We're going to close public comments, go to the consent agenda. Looks like there's just our city council minutes from our regular session and our work session, both on August 19th. Could we have a motion for a consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I believe there needs to be under the regular session minutes the addition of Mr. Egley to part of the conversation. I apologize, I don't have that ready before you this evening. It was mentioned briefly to my attention last week. And I just would like to be able to modify the minutes to add his name with respect to talking with Captain Lofile on the memorial stone.
And that would be during our regular session?
Correct.
Is that part of that motion also, or was it?
Yes.
So you're looking under the city manager's report, the first motion was including the approval by, both the Captain Wolf Isle and Robert Egley?
That's correct.
Is everybody clear on that change?
So I make a motion, unless we already did it.
You can do it to amend, or you can amend your motion as...
I didn't make the motion. Did you make the motion? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with city council minutes from the regular meeting held August 9th, 2013, amended as stated.
Okay, any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, Mr. Pecha?
Yes. Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Melama. Yes. Stevens.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Motion carried. Next up is a proclamation. Mr. Phelan, would you mind coming up? And if you want to, Mr. Ball, can you get the picture on the picture we have, or is that in a tough spot?
Can you take a picture? Thank you, sir.
I'll just come over here. We'll hold that up here in a second.
Jeff's going to take a picture too.
At the end of this, Harold Phelan, we have a proclamation in his, on his behalf, and thanks for coming tonight, Harold. Harold's a member of the Wexford County Historical Society. We actually had this set for last week and got our wires crossed, so we're glad you're able to make it back. Thank you, Harold. The proclamation reads as follows: whereas author Jack Hobie found a photo on eBay and contacted David Higley, who then was able to work with George Cadillac and Harold Phelan to secure the photograph with a successful bid on eBay. The photograph has been blown up, framed, and given to the city of Cadillac by an anonymous donor. Whereas Cadillac area resident Harold Phelan, along with David Higley from Delaware, George Cadillac from Indiana, worked 5 months together to discover and bring to the city of Cadillac a picture of the Shea locomotive, which is believed to have been taken between 1898 and 1900. We have the photo over there. Pick it up in a second here for Jeff to put on TV. Whereas the Shea locomotive displayed in Cadillac City Park was built in 1898, it is the exact same locomotive in the picture which captures the spirit of the era. Whereas originally there were only 2,768 Shea locomotives built. Of those, there are only 115 remaining, which are referred to as survivors, including the one that is displayed in the Cadillac City Park. Whereas the Shea locomotive was an essential mode of transportation for the logging industry, of which the city of Cadillac is founded upon, which makes this photo a great historical artifact for the city to possess. Whereas the city of Cadillac is extremely grateful to have received the gift of such a wonderful and historically accurate photograph, which will be displayed in the city's administrative lobby for many years to come. And actually, it will be laid out here as you come in and meet Fran at the front desk. It will be laid to the left side, right next to where the other Shea information is. Therefore, be it resolved that I, William S. Barnett, Mayor of the City of Cadillac, do hereby proclaim the City of Cadillac's deepest gratitude and thanks to Harold Phelan for playing such a critical role in securing this historic treasure for the City of Cadillac to proudly display for years to come. Dated the 3rd day of September 2013, signed William S. Barnett, and also there's a gold shield for you, Harold. Thank you for your work very much, and for bringing this picture and having an anonymous donor come forward and frame it for us, expand it. And there's also one of these, by the way, in the Historical Society, correct, which you're also a member of, and I know you came over here from the meeting. Yeah, so we got you today as well. Okay, so thank you for doing this. I'm going to have you hold up the picture here in a second, and maybe we can get a photo, if that'd be okay. And I want to show everyone at home what this photo is all about. I don't drop it. I'm on a roll today. Can you up on that side, real? Thank you. And the judge, can you get close up to that real quick? Okay, he's got it. All right, that is a beautiful photo. That will be in our lobby. And I want to thank Harold again for putting that together. I'm just going to leave it on display tonight. Harold, is there anything you'd like to say? with regard to your find, and the excitement that you had working 5 months to retrieve this picture for our city and for our historical society.
Just briefly, this worked over 5 months' time, but it was based on, we thought the Shea in the city park was the locomotive used on North Manitou Island. It ended up not being there. It ended up actually being in Boyne City, and we believe that picture is taken in Boyne City in somewhere between 1898 and 1900, where we believe it was taken. But the big thing for the city, one, you have a survivor. There's only 115 survivors of the 2,700 made, and they're made throughout the country and throughout the world. They were used. They have more torque with the gears than basically any type of machinery back in the old days. It's unbelievable. But first and foremost, Mr. Shea was here. He invented the Shea. You have a surviving Shea in the city park. It's just a great piece of history to see this in its prime. When you look at this one, then look at the one in the city park. You've got the headlight that's still on. It's kerosene because they didn't have electric headlights back then. The sander's still on it. The hose is wrapped around for the sand. They'd have to address it to the wheels if they did slip. They didn't have too much slippage. And the big thing with steam, gears build up ice. You use steam to melt it. So you didn't have much problem keeping ice built up. But all together, we found this after working 5 months. There were probably somewhere between 500 and 700 emails, numerous phone calls, trying to track one down. And as far as we know of right now, there could be one somewhere else, but that's the only surviving picture we know of one of the Shea in the city park in its prime.
Very cool.
Detective, State Trooper.
Very good. He did do some detective work, didn't he?
He did. Thank you, again, Mr. Phelan. Next up, we have a public hearing tonight. It is a public hearing to adopt ordinance number 2013-08, amending Chapter 18 of the Cadillac City Code regarding consumer fireworks. What do we have on this? Mr. Petche, I'm going to open the public hearing at this time and ask staff to start off with a little discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Before you this evening is the ordinance in its latest draft. You have talked about this on several different occasions regarding putting in essentially a prohibition on the use of consumer fireworks on days aside from the national holidays identified by the state of Michigan, along with the day that the city of Cadillac may be celebrating the 4th of July, should it be a different date. The ordinance, I believe, still prohibits the aerial, uncontrolled aerial fireworks such as the sky lanterns. We can, if you do wish, we can amend that to include that they'd be allowed only per the permit from the fire marshal, but as it's currently written now, it does not provide that. It does prohibit them outright. But this is the public hearing for that, and if there's any additional discussion.
Okay, who would like to come forward, if anyone? The public hearing is open. It's relative to adopting an ordinance 2013-08, amending Chapter 18 of the Cadillac City Code regarding consumer fireworks. Hearing and seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn it over to council. What's your pleasure on this, folks?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the section I was referring to is under Section 3, Prohibitions B, under fireworks generally. It currently reads, any unmanned free-floating device, sky lanterns, which requires fire underneath to propel it and is not moored to the ground while aloft, have an uncontrolled and unpredictable flight path and descent, are so as to pose a potential fire risk and are therefore prohibited. We had talked about how there are certain groups in town that use sky lanterns as a part of their special events, Presumably, we could require that they first get a permit or permission from the fire marshal before igniting them. He would make a judgment call based upon factors such as wind and some other things, presumably. But currently now, we would be restricting that usage altogether unless we added that language to give him the flexibility. I will state that if you may or may not recall, the last time the fire marshal was here talking about this item, he did indicate that a prohibition of them is appropriate because they are dangerous and you don't necessarily know where they're going to land or whether or not they're going to still have any flame on them. And there's been examples even in our own town where they've gotten caught in trees going up and then have set a tree on fire. So,
Don't we already kind of address that in the fact that individually it's prohibited, but couldn't that be part of their permit if they were actually, they're going to have to get a permit anyhow for a organized event, and that would have to come back to the city fire marshal as well as the city council.
the commercial fireworks you need a permit for, but sky lanterns aren't defined as commercial. They're under the consumer, which is why you wouldn't need a permit for it unless we were to require one.
But what I'm saying is, you mentioned this scenario if there was an organization that wanted to use them as part of a event, they would have to go through the permitting process, as this is already outlined to do that.
Yes, but unless there's something that council would be weighing in on, it wouldn't come to you for approval. Like closing down a street or something to that effect. I'm thinking of an event that was at the high school a couple of years ago where there were a number of sky lanterns that were lit, and we didn't have any...
I think under the Section 4 permits, it does for us.
But that's only for commercial
Yeah,
fireworks.
it's only for
And these
commercial.
don't qualify as commercial fireworks. So can we add those to this? How would we create a permitting process for those sky lanterns?
My recommendation would simply be to modify under Section 3B to say, therefore, it says already, therefore prohibited, and then I would just simply add the language, unless permitted by the fire marshal or city council.
Okay.
They've already, those events that occurred in the past, though, the staircase runaway, and so I worked with the person, they had come to our city chief, fire chief at the time, or fire marshal, and had to cancel one of the evenings because the winds were too strong. So this
is just written very tight, Mr. Mayor.
There's been in the past already a request from the group, or at least one group that did it, and we adjourned one of the nights to the next night.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2013-08, amending Chapter 18 of the Cadillac City Code regarding consumer fireworks, with the addition on Section 3 under fireworks generally, Part B, adding except for as permitted by Cadillac Fire Marshal.
Yeah, that would work.
But they have to, permitted, they have to go through both the fire marshal and the city council, correct? Well, at least it's showing that.
I think that part of the confusion, and forgive me if I'm rambling, is between consumer fireworks and commercial fireworks. If I, as a Cadillac resident and homeowner, wanted to go and light sky lanterns out from my backyard under this ordinance, as I read it and understand, I would need to get the fire marshal to permit that activity. Similarly, we used to, we don't any longer, but we used to require the fire marshal to permit the outdoor backyard fireplaces that folks have, whether they're built in the ground or the ones we bought off the shelf. I actually have a permit from when I moved here accordingly for that. And so in this case, Councilmember Stevens, I would say that no, if a group needed a permit for sky lanterns, that unless they were going to be coming in front of council for any other part of their event, that no, they wouldn't require also getting council's approval. It would be just the fire marshal.
That makes sense.
I'll support.
Okay, there's a motion and support. Any discussion other than what was said? Hearing none. Marcus, could you give us a roll call?
Yes, one moment. Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Spellman. Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Motion carried. Next up is a public hearing to adopt ordinance number 2013-09, amending Chapter 22 of the Cadillac City Code regarding loitering. And I'd open the public hearing at this point, go to staff first as to amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The City Attorney put together language that was shared at a prior meeting, and if it's all right, I'm just going to read the paragraph into the record of the new section of code being proposed, Section 22-104, loitering on public property. Reads as follows: any person who shall loiter, wander, stand, or remain idle in a public street, sidewalk, park, or public place so as to hinder or impede or attempt to hinder or impede the passage of pedestrians or vehicles shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. For purposes of this section, the term loiter shall mean remaining idle in essentially one location and shall include the concept of spending time idly, to be dilatory, to linger, to stay, to saunter, to delay, or to stand around. For purposes of this section, the term public place shall mean any place to which the general public has access and a right of resort for business, entertainment, or for a lawful purpose.
Is that not in their packet, Marcus? That's a separate sheet here.
Yeah, hand it out, I think.
Yeah, that is on your desk, Mr. Mayor.
So this is the only change.
What was the reason for the change, Mr. Pecha?
Well, it's an amendment. It's adding a new section to help provide the police with some additional enforcement opportunities.
And probably to help save some questions maybe to Mr. Homier, is there are other areas that were looked at, but some of it was either already enforceable in other areas or not able to be added. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically, just a general prohibition against loitering is unconstitutional. But when you combine it, like we've done here, in terms of impeding the right of people to access public places, then that's a permissible regulation. We looked at the city's code of ordinances, and really that's the only thing that's missing. The city has adequately covered every and all areas you can cover.
Just meeting the needs of the city prosecutor, Mr. Homier, that brought this to our attention in the first place.
Yeah, we hope it will give them an added tool in trying to restrict some of the activities that's been going on at the park, that's sort of unwanted activities, so.
Okay. Anything else from staff, Mr. Pecha, before I go to the public?
No, sir.
Okay, anyone from the public wishing to talk about the amendment to the loitering statute? It's a public hearing to adopt ordinance number 2013-09, amending Chapter 22 of the Cadillac City Code regarding loitering. I'm going to close the public hearing, seeing no one coming up. Anything, how would council rather like to handle this at this point?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution number 3017, which adopts ordinance number 2013-09, amending Chapter 22, offenses of the City Code of Cadillac.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Pecha, could you give us a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spellman.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Motion carried. Communications, Mr. Pecha?
Thank you, members of council, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Sarah Benson, the Wexford County Emergency Management Coordinator, did message me earlier this afternoon and sent her regards. She was unable to attend this evening's meeting for the closure request that's here this evening on the upcoming Child Safety Expo. The Child Safety Expo this year is scheduled for September 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and the request is to have the road closed from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That would be Lake Street between Pine Street and Harris Street. And certainly members of council are definitely invited to come by and attend the expo.
Okay. Any discussion from council or a motion?
One is that historically our fire department and police department and EMTs do an excellent job with this event, and if you could pass on to them, Mr. Pecha, our appreciation to them for all that they do. It's a great event, and if anybody has children or grandchildren especially out there, it's a neat event for them as well.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion we could make at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the closing of Lake Street between Pine and Harris for the annual Child Safety Expo on September 14th, 2013, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Is there support for TI's motion? And any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call, please, Mr. Pecha.
Thank you. Council Member Shippers.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Motion carried. No appointments tonight, Mr. Pecha?
No.
We just do the city manager's report, and we've got, looks like 3 things on there. Why don't you go ahead and take that away?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. The first item is a request for a FOIA appeal. I do believe you have the information at your place, and I'm sorry there's a lot of paper in front of you today. I will read it. Give me one moment. Unless I didn't bring the right sheet, which is possible. No.
The one that's in the packet.
Yeah, it's the one that's in the packet. Thank you.
Right here.
Yep. Okay. The letter was from Mr. Makinitz requesting a FOIA appeal. It says, I, Makinitz, would like to appeal a FOIA request that was submitted April 10th, 2013. This FOIA request was for the personnel records of Captain Wolfile and Detective Golnick. These records were incomplete. Included in Detective Golnick's record is a letter requesting the removal of discipline records submitted to City Manager Marcus Pecha. There is no letter of response from City Manager Pecha. I am formally appealing the decision of the city to not include the response from City Manager Pecha and requesting the city follow the FOIA appeal procedure. I am also allowing my mother, Cindy Knitz, to speak on my behalf if I am unable to attend any meetings. The city attorney could perhaps remind us on how we've handled the process before, but I believe at this point, we open the floor up to the person requesting the appeal.
I think our due process was open it up to the appellant, and then let the city respond, and then give the appellant the final word with some flexibility. So, I see Matt is not present tonight, and Cindy is. Would you like to come forward, Cindy, and make your case or your request for your appeal, please? Could give us your name and address, please.
Cindy Knitz, 715 Cobb Street, here in Cadillac. The request is as it's written. There was a request made for the personnel records There's a letter in there specifically asking to have his, Detective Golnick, discipline expunged. There's no response from the city manager. What we're asking for is the response.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
No. If there is no response in the record, I would like to know why there is no official response from the city manager.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Not at this time.
Okay. Given the individual appealing the FOI request that she was not satisfied with our response, and Marcus, what is our position with regard to this appeal?
Honestly, there is no letter. The meeting that took place back in June of 2010 was in my office. I denied the request. I did not put it in writing, and that was the end of the conversation. So if there was something I had, I would absolutely be providing it, but I triple-checked after the appeal letter came in last week just to make sure I didn't miss something, and I don't have anything.
So basically, our position is there is no paper that exists that would be as requested, and therefore we cannot turn one over.
Correct.
And she did have a question, maybe you can help her out here with this, or not, but is there a reason why that didn't occur?
To the best of my recollection, it was a rather quick conversation after I denied it, and the answer was okay, and they walked out, and that was it.
So is it customary then, when you have a formal request, that you don't give anything in writing?
And in that instance, in 2010, it didn't seem to need it.
After you received an official request, you deemed it not necessary to give him...
I received a letter from the then Director of Public Safety that was not a letter to me, but it was a letter to him that he had received with a little sticky note stuck on it. It was rather informal from the beginning.
But the official request has to come to the city manager to expunge records. So is that the way you do business, is that you don't officially respond to somebody when they ask you to do something?
I am really not sure if I'm following why you're talking to me in the manner that you are, but the letter the letter that was provided to me came from the then Director of Public Safety with a sticky note on it suggesting that I approve the request as it was made to him. I had a meeting in my office. I said that no, I was not going to approve the request. It was accepted from that point in time, and that was the end of it. It did not occur to me at the time, a few years ago, that I needed to do any further follow-up. It was accepted.
So there's no documentation to say that those files were not expunged?
Not that I was able to find, no.
So there's also no documentation to say that either they were or they were not?
I think I've answered the question, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Okay, I think, hang on, what do you have something, Mr.?
It's just an odd way to perform your job.
Did the request come to you in writing or to the Public Safety Director?
The request came to the Public Safety Director.
And the sticky note, so it was a sticky note asking you whether or not you would approve it?
And I actually have a copy of it here. The sticky note, I believe, said, I tend to agree with what's being requested. Can we meet or something to that effect? I'd have to...
Yeah.
Okay, pull that out. Anything else? Did you want to say something? Or have a question?
No, I'm just thinking if we have to make it clear, we should. And if she has questions, we should make sure they're addressed.
Okay. Is there a question that we haven't answered, Cindy? Marcus, on behalf of the city, you have asked about the appeal, which is the response to, it looks like the public safety director's sticky that was put on a letter from her lieutenant.
Well, the collective bargaining agreement, the first step in expungement is to the public safety director. Then it goes to the city manager. So those are the normal steps.
Okay. And your concern is there was nothing in writing indicating whether it was granted or not?
Exactly. So there's a huge question on whether or not it was actually granted.
Okay.
I don't see how there's a question on whether or not it was granted when it was at a meeting just stated that it was not granted.
It's not documented. It's not documented. It's not done.
But it would have been documented if it was expunged. Nothing was documented because nothing occurred. There was not the record was not expunged. So it would be like documenting what you don't do.
What proves that it was not expunged?
It's still in his file.
Well, the simplest thing going forward is the very first sentence, and it says, per section 19.3 of our union contract. So this is a union thing. We had another appeal previously, or a FOIA that was brought to our attention when there was a letter. It would make 100% sense in the future for the city to put every one of these requests for expungement under that section in writing. Number one, Mr. Golnick has a good reason to come forward and say this wasn't done properly by our union contract. And it wasn't done through a committee, which is also a requirement of the union contract instead of just one person. So this probably could be a very good learning lesson in the future. My position is we should make sure, since it is a request by the union and we're working with the union, that could have resulted in a grievance. It's better to have it documented as we have done and to do it consistently with every employee.
Your point is 19.3, it requires the committee to review this request, not the city manager?
He's part of it. The city manager with a committee from the union reviews it, they make a decision. I think it makes very good standard practice in the future to put that in writing and do it consistently for every employee of any of them.
Did we have a committee meet there, Mr. Petzer, or was it just, as you indicated, the brief office visit and that was the end of it?
It was a brief office visit with Todd, myself, I believe. Jeff was there, and I don't recall if anyone else was in the room with me. It's possible that Matt may have been there too, but I honestly don't recall.
Does the committee have a union representative then, typically?
If Matt was there, Matt would have been the union representative at the time.
No, this isn't a request coming from the union. This is coming from Detective Golnick. I would think that if he was not satisfied with just the informal, denial of expunging the records, that he personally could have called for a committee to convene and appeal just that brief meeting. Did that ever happen?
No.
Okay, so this did not come from the union, this came from an individual. If he was not satisfied with what happened, then it would have gone to the union. Every request and conversation, if a committee had to be convened, then yes, everything should be documented. But it's like there was this, it was like, no thanks, nope, this isn't going to happen. He seemed satisfied with it, obviously, or he would have called a committee meeting. And so, what further, I'm not sure if everything that comes through as a union member and a union vice president, that people come and talk to us and we go and talk informally, and everything isn't documented if everybody agrees and is good with it. if there was some kind of a conflict brought about it, if the union member was not satisfied with that, then we would go to the next steps, and then it would be documented. So,
I'm sorry.
I feel that we're getting off topic here. The question is whether or not any documents exist to honor the Freedom of Information request. The question is not whether or not we proceeded correctly, in the process of what happened. So we need to go back to what the request is here and determine whether or not we're going to honor the appeal or deny it, and then based on what.
Well, it's obvious we're going to deny the appeal because there is no paperwork. She did ask another question.
We need to vote to that.
If I could continue, please. She has brought up an issue about our handling. It's both sides has blown this. If the union was notified, I think it was Tony that was on the union as our contact there anyway, but there should have been a meeting with the commission or the committee, and that should have been handled that way rather than in the office, and obviously it should have had some writing. And it was denied from what Mr. Petch has told you. We don't have any paperwork, and it sounds like we could have done better in this instance, and we have, at least the council has learned here tonight, that we need to watch this closer, and that we will have a better paper trail in a committee meeting so that we are following our union contract. That, to me, though, is both sides involved. If the union actually was notified that this was going on, they should have also stood up and indicated that there needs to be a committee meeting for this and some discussion, and the union could have taken a position, but for some reason it wasn't handled that way. And it was written out as per section 19.3. But the point's made, I think we're going to need to deny your appeal because there is no paperwork. And if anyone else wants to say anything else, she asked a question why it wasn't there, and Mr. Petcha has answered it. But there's also 19.3, and it's just a learning lesson here for us to recognize that a mistake was made, and there should have been something in writing to follow it up. And I think the city should take responsibility for that and learn from that, accept that responsibility, and do it better next time.
And I would add, though, again, criticize the messenger, but if we see it's happening, the simplest thing is go to that part of the contract and do it the same for everybody. And I know that's not the purpose of this, but while it's exposed, let's look and make it further correction. And I think it's good policy. The union contract, I would suggest all the council to read that section, because you're going to find how it's laid out. Why would we suggest that our staff would go a different route, and then if they complain about it, then go follow the union contract? I would say, why don't we simplify this and say we're going to just follow it under every circumstance? I think it's great practice to have every employee have the same process, and that is allow them the right route, allow a written response to go back with the committee. Let's not try to, whether it was a mistake or try to make it sound like, well, they have a right later. Let's just follow the union contract going forward. It sounds like it wasn't, unfortunately, here, but we could definitely learn from that and make sure that at least that we emphasize that to the staff going forward.
Okay, so anything, I'll give you the final word here. We are going to vote on your appeal in a second.
Well, an interesting point that Councilmember Stevens brought up is to have all employees treated fairly and consistently. My husband submitted a request to the city manager to have his files expunged and was denied and got a formal letter. So why did Bill get a formal letter and not Todd?
The reason why there was a letter that went to Mr. Cadets was because he had asked for additional things. It wasn't just simply having his file expunged. He had requested to have certain discipline items from his file put into a separate file jacket. I told him that that doesn't necessarily protect that from a Freedom of Information request, and that it would still be managed by Human Resources, and I said, I'm going to put that in writing. And so that was the purpose of that letter.
I do not believe that his official request to you said anything about moving to a separate file. That came from you.
He asked me that in his office.
That was not
in my office.
That was not in his official request to have anything done other than an expungement. It's just interesting to me that the union contract is followed in one instance and not in another.
Sorry.
Okay. I recommend we do a motion here. You can hang out for a second, Mrs. Knitz. Anything else council wanted to say before a motion to grant the appeal or deny it? And obviously, the staff has looked through the file and has not found anything, and the item that's requested is still there if there was one. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the employee asking for this. He did ask for it, and that's their right, just as it would have been for Mr. Knitz's right as well. But what is our position with regard to the city's look at the appeal? To upheld our earlier decision of our staff? Could we have a motion?
I will make a motion that due to the fact that the document does not exist, we are denying the request. I don't know if I have to put specifically any other reasons other than the fact that the document does not exist to give, and that we as a council feel going forward that we will address section 19.3 of the union contract equally for all employees.
Okay. That may help. There's a motion on the table. Is there a support for that? Or any further discussion by council on our motion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call, Mr. Petcha?
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Motion carried. We have upheld the decision based on basically there's not any document. Thank you for coming tonight. Next up, Mr. Petcha, a couple more items.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. And I, again, apologize for my delay in taking notes and also flipping back and forth screens here. The next item is a recommendation to set a council work session. We had discussed back during our budget meetings as we went into the current fiscal year about getting back into having special separate goal-setting sessions. Councilmember Stevens, I think you actually brought it up at one of the meetings about wanting to do that again. It was a practice that City Council had several years ago, and I thought that if we don't get a date scheduled, time waits for no man. So this was an opportunistic time to get something on the books. We thought that October 21st, 5:15 could be that time to do that. Capital budgeting would be happening following, presumably in November or December. So,
Okay. Any discussion from council regarding a goal-setting work session for 5:15 on August 21st? Hearing none, can we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to set a work session for October 21st, 2013 for the purpose of goal setting.
That would be at 5:15.
Support?
Is that at 5:15?
Yes, did I say that or not?
Thank you. And that's your support as well for the time, Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Any other discussion on goal setting?
Just I appreciate the council considering that, because this was, I think it's an important step in our whole budgeting process is to have goals, and we haven't done that, and I think it was a good practice we had, so thank you for having that put back in the process.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing none, we would at this point ask for a roll call, please, Mr. Petcha.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes. Motion carried. So there's a work session for the 21st of October at 5:15, which probably is a Monday night.
It is.
Should be in advance of our regular.
Okay. Mr. Petra, thank you. Third item for your city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Sorry, I was just double checking the date. It was October 21st. That's
Yeah, no, it's
okay, thank you. This next item is a reconsideration of the appointment of the city clerk. As I believe everybody does know, information had come to light that was inconsistent with the application for the clerk position that we had and the qualifications for the individual that was previously recommended and appointed by the City Council. That recommendation, just for reference, did come from me. Based upon that information and the inconsistencies of the application, I am recommending that the City Council rescind its prior appointment and reconsider the appointment of the clerk position. There are a couple of motions for you to consider this evening. I believe I have written them out. One of them may need a little tweaking, though, but the first one would be a motion to rescind and reconsider the appointment of the clerk position.
Could we run that by council, these two motions that are being proposed in our packet, Mr. Petra?
That's the first one. The second motion would be actually to not reconsider the appointment of the clerk position, but to accept the resignation of the clerk as tendered.
Those are neither of which were in our packet for proposed motions. Could we...
They're in the...
Let's start with the first proposed motion then. Could you restate the first proposed?
Sure. The motion would be to rescind and reconsider the appointment of the clerk position.
Okay.
I will make that motion.
Any support?
Support.
Okay. Any discussion from council prior to the vote? Hearing none. Mark, Mr. Petra, could you please give us a vote?
Councilmember Smolman.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
And Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Motion carried. Now, the second motion, which is opposite of what we have printed out here as a proposed motion. Can we have that read into the record either by the attorney or the city manager?
Yes. The second motion would be to actually not reconsider the appointment of the clerk position, but to accept the resignation of the clerk as tendered.
And I will make that motion as well.
Okay, there's a motion and support. Any discussion on this? What else do we have to say at this time, Mr. Petra, other than what you let in with? I know there was an article that had a little bit more in it this weekend, and would you like to explain this further out, what happened?
As I mentioned in my opening comments, there were some inconsistencies that came to light regarding the soon-to-be former clerk's background. They should have acknowledged that they had a history that was not acknowledged, and unfortunately, we're in the position where we are this evening, where we need to be able to move forward with another selection.
There was a remark in the paper regarding the iChat, which is through the Michigan State Police. I just would like to point out that is not their fault, and to lay it on the feet of the Michigan State Police was, the impression was given that it was theirs. It's not. The full responsibility is with the city, and our background check, which failed in this case and was deficient, in my opinion. Anything else for a discussion?
Yeah, I think it would be good to know, you have to give respect to him. A lot of times, we find by elected officials and staff and people that are in those positions, it's hard to admit when they made a mistake, and I think by him resigning, it shows that he took responsibility. Oftentimes, that doesn't happen, we try to find people to make stories up for us or get, you know, people that don't stand up and take the responsibility, so I admire him for doing that, and hopefully people in the future can take his lead. And sometimes it's easier to admit when you've done something wrong and take the responsibility than to follow up with more lying and deceit. Thank you.
Okay. So we do have a motion and support. Any final discussion? Anything else? Nothing? Mr. Pecha?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Could you give us a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Motion carried. Next up are the introduction of ordinances and resolutions, which we do have one regarding recycling, which would be to set another public hearing. And I guess the wheel's rolling again on this. What is going on with this at this point, Mr. Pecha?
Well, if you haven't noticed, Jeff Dietland is sitting here in the audience, or actually on the sidebar there. Prepared tonight are several changes. The communication does list the particular areas in the ordinance. We had initially amended this section of code to incorporate recycling into it, whereas it was only solely refuse in the past. Through council conversation at our meetings, there were at least one prime example being the scavenger section that had come up. I believe the condominium section had also come up. We took another look at the whole ordinance, this time looking at every section, essentially going through it and wordsmithing it. And what we have this evening is a track changes version that you should have, that you should be able to see and follow along. It references the different changes. Additionally, since our last meeting, there was a question that came up with respect to whether or not we were going to be requiring lids on the recycling bins. It was suggested that I meet along with Rita Meach from Miss Green LLC, in which I did, along with Jeff Dietland. We did prepare a compromise that is actually a part of the changes in the ordinance that we're looking at setting a hearing for this evening. And in that section, just to skip to it, it reads that all solid waste and recyclable material containers shall be leak-proof, shall have tight-fitting covers, and shall be kept in a clean and sanitary condition by the owner. Covers for recyclable material containers shall be provided upon the request by the provider of the containers. And then it goes on to say that solid waste containers that are not provided by a commercial hauler shall be equipped with 2 handles, or one with suitable handle for carrying, and shall not exceed 50 gallons in capacity. No solid waste shall be so loaded that it cannot be conveniently handled without spilling its contents. And then there's a section about weight as it goes on. As you can see, there are several changes to the ordinance. It's simply being presented tonight for the setting of the public hearing for, excuse me, I have to look the date up, for the 16th of September. And I'm not sure, Jeff, if you wanted to draw anyone to any other part of this or not. Or if anyone on council has any other questions.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Not a question, but I think maybe you want to set it up for not only recycling code action, but you've cleaned up or the scavenging portion, which maybe that is recycling. Folks would still not be able to dive into dumpsters and get into people's garbage, not to disturb the contents of the waste containers, basically, is what this is going to say, but they can swing by, as is a common practice, and collect large household items such as furniture and appliances that are placed outside of a container. And that was a concern brought to my attention by at least one citizen that would like to have some privacy, although legally, once they put it on the tree lawn, it's abandoned, but legally for other reasons. But I think their point's well taken, and they, for hygiene and other reasons, I think it'd be nice to not have people going through cans. But that's more than, I think, just recycling, and how would we deal with that?
Well, the whole section of code now is both refuse and recycling. We don't have a separate recycling code per se, it's one section.
We're setting a public hearing for amending the code regarding recycling. I thought you might want to put something in there for refuse and recycling.
And I can definitely clear that up with respect to the motion, because it would be setting a public hearing, amending the ordinance, amending Article 2, Chapter 32 of the Cadillac City Code. And that'd be setting the hearing for September 16th.
Okay, now, are there any other changes that are above and beyond recycling in the...
There are changes where it listed the Public Works Director as the go-to, and I thought it would make better sense to simply list the city manager or his or her designee. Therefore, we're not caught in some kind of catch-22. What if I don't have a Public Works Director? What if it's somebody else? In this case, it's actually the Utilities Director who's managing the refuse and recycling contract. So there were a host of what I call housekeeping-type items that were put into this. The section regarding scavenging, I will flip to that. We added a section B. The section B now says that scavenging shall not include the collection of large household items such as furniture and appliances that are placed outside of a container. Mr. Mayor, to your point, looking at trying to still, discourage people from going through and rummaging through someone's garbage can, possibly making a mess. That was how it was previously listed. That's how it's still listed, but now we're giving the exclusion that if somebody should put large household items such as furniture and appliances outside of the container, such as on the tree line, as you mentioned yourself, that's okay, and that if somebody comes by and takes it, that's not going to be in violation of the ordinance. So there was, I'm sorry, I was going to just simply mention Councilmember Stevens' point from the last meeting too. We fine-tuned the language on the condominium section as well. So.
Okay. Anybody else before Sherry makes her motion? Sorry, Sherry. Hearing nothing, go ahead, please.
Okay.
You're okay.
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for September 16, 2013 to amend Article 2, Chapter 32 of the Cadillac City Code regarding recycling and solid waste collection.
Okay. Is there support for that?
Support.
Any further discussion? This is actually our second public hearing on this topic in general. Could we have a roll call vote, Mr. Betcha, unless anyone else has any questions, comments? Hearing none, go ahead, Marcus.
Thank you. Councilmember Spelman?
Yes.
Councilmember Melama?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes. Motion carried, so the meeting is set for, public hearing is set for September 16th. Next, I assume this is yours as well, Mr. Betcha?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. At this point, it would be appropriate for the City Council to adopt a resolution that does establish fees for solid waste and recyclable material collection. The following fee schedule that's provided in the resolution listed as following: recyclable material collection fee of $2 a month per account, solid waste administration fee is 65 cents per month per account, and the solid waste container fee is 45 cents per month per account. The senior bag program is still at $2 per bag, and this fee schedule will take effect in October 1, 2013. Jeff, was there any other? That was it, right? Okay.
Is this resolution 3015 or 3014? Because in the packet it is labeled 3015 and the agenda is 3014.
I have it as 3015. Well, we'll clarify that. We can change the number if we need to.
Okay, go ahead. I don't know if this is the time for questions, or if you...
Go ahead. Let's ask questions. Any comments?
First of all, as a reminder, the fee schedule, that was set for 5 years?
Yes.
Would there be any reason we would only establish them for 1 year versus just establishing them for the 5-year period? Number one, so we don't have to bring it back every year. Would be the first question. Unless that would do it.
I believe, Councilmember, that it sets it
Until it's changed.
until it's changed.
Okay,
I'm not sure if, Mike, if you have any
oh,
comment.
that's fine.
Okay.
But I wanted to just make sure. The second thing, are we sure about the solid waste container fee of 45 cents? Is that the container from the,
From the provider, from the waste hauler.
Republic?
That's our cost to administer it. His cost is a bid cost, which was $1.65. But for us to manage the program, because every month people add totes or take totes away, we have an administrative cost on that is fixed, that there's nobody bid it, but we have a cost to administer that program because of the changes every month.
I'm sorry, I wasn't questioning the administrative fee part, but the one that's the solid waste container fee?
That's the administration fee for the solid waste containers. We have one for the actual refuge program, because again, on the refuge program, people might have their own containers, they might be on senior bags, they might turn the service on and off for the refuge. The containers, people will move, people will say, we no longer want a container, we want 2 containers. So there's a certain amount of time that we have in that we're, every month we're adjusting that number and having containers dropped off and picked up, so.
Should we add administration in there so that if you read it, it looks like that's the fee per month for the actual container?
You're correct, it's not per the container. The container was a bid item on the refuge contract, which was $1.65, I do believe.
Where would you like to add that in? Administration in between container and fee. Does that make sense?
Solid waste container administration.
Okay, anything else prior to a motion with that amendment? Could we have a motion, please?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 3015, establishing fees for solid waste and recyclable materials collection, with the changes noted.
Support.
We have motion and support. Any further discussion on the item? If not, Mr. Petcher, can you read us a roll call again? Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Mayor Barnett. Yes. Motion carried. Next up, I believe, are minutes of boards and commissions. And since we have no reports of boards and commissions, the DDA met. Mr. Petcher, I see there's something going on with pigeons as well as our sidewalk, where it bumps up unexpectedly in certain places or down, and the brick pavings. Maybe you could just touch on that if it's not in the minutes. Jiggle it. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. There was a grant application that the city put in for, or rather the DDA put in for, to try to get some funds through the Northwest Michigan Council of Governments to utilize a non-lethal method of helping to control the pigeon population that is causing building damage and other serious issues to buildings within the downtown. The grant was turned down. One of the issues were, although they basically commended us for applying for it, they were concerned about potential fallout of doing something where we're paying for like a birth control type substance. And there was also definitely the mention that there were over $100,000 worth of grant requests for not nearly as much grant monies that were available, and the project itself didn't warrant the giving out of funds for this project through the Northwest COG. Subsequent to that, the Downtown Development Authority did determined to still try to move ahead and looking at utilizing their own funds through the Downtown Development Authority and looking at this non-lethal solution of trying to maintain and control pigeon population. Before my time, it was explained that there was a lethal method that was used that was quite controversial, and so this was thought as perhaps a really good opportunity to try something that's non-lethal. It was also discussed as well that the type of food that is given is something that's sized for pigeons specifically, so you're not going to be impacting other birds, and it's put up on the top of buildings, so it's not like it's going to get eaten by squirrels or something. So that was that item. The Downtown Development Authority is also looking at and discussing a potential new program for the sidewalks. They had a discussion about the brick pavers, about whether or not to look at replacing them, resetting them, different types of sand to use, whether to look at a stamped concrete versus brick pavers again. It was discussed that other cities in the state and in other states that have pavers experience the same issues, but then it was also discussed that the pavers themselves are basically maintenance-free. Now, it sounds like I just said two things completely contradictory. Maintenance-free from repairs, unlike, they don't crack like the sidewalk will crack or like concrete will crack. But from time to time, if they do create tripping hazards, you should be resetting them or doing things to try to mitigate that situation as best you can. So right now they're in the works of discussing how to move that forward.
Thank you. That actually wasn't in the minutes. That was in the prior meeting of the DDA.
You had mentioned even if it wasn't in the minutes. I figured I would give it to you all.
Thank you. All right. Anything else on the minutes from the DDA, Marcus?
Yes, sir.
Public comment is back up. As promised, it is requested that comment time be limited to 3 minutes. So anyone wishing to speak at the public comment may certainly step forward at this time. Hearing and seeing no one move forward, we'll close that. No tabled items. Go to the order. Mr. Petrie, do you want to start off or go to the order, and we'll end up back with you?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Just wanted to wish all the kids welcome back to school message, and everybody out there to please be careful now that school has started. There's certainly going to be more traffic in the morning, more traffic in the mid to late afternoon, and kids walking, cycling, and other such things, though we still have decent weather out there. So just a quick plea to please be careful and to watch out. And welcome back, everybody, and hopefully we'll have a great new school year.
Okay. Councilmember Shippers, you're in a new spot tonight. Welcome to that side of the table.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Councilmember Mollema for being accommodating and moving over to the other end of the table so that I can get here. I was going to say what what Mr. Petches said about school being back in session. I would also... Thank you.
We might go to the order tonight. Mr. Stevens, Councilman Stevens, thank you. Jeff?
Thank you.
Real quick, on that topic, I did get a phone call last week. This is when you know people watch our show, our meetings about, I had addressed early summer about the safe school at Franklin School, and got a call encouraging us to look into that with the school again. I know there was going to be a review done and get back to the council. We haven't heard anything back, but if you could check on that, I think in light of the school starting, that would be a great thing to see about on Carmel Street, what we can do as part of that Safe School program.
That's the vouch school, right?
Yeah, I did say it wrong, so the Safe Routes to School, but if we could get on that ASAP, that it's been a few months now. Other than that, I just encourage everybody, if you can, to pass on about the Saturday's events at the park. And I know it started after September 11th with the fire department and police department, and it's a great event.
Child Expo?
Yes. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Council Member Bowman. We didn't get this out of order yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for passing. Councilmember Malama.
Yeah, this is a little different spot. Normally, our city manager is always looking at my notes, and, and then he starts off and takes all my my comments. Our issues and solutions over coffee was excellent. Last month, we met at Cadillac West at the new coffee shop, and we talked about traffic issues and several other issues out there. And our new community development assistant to Jerry, Mike, did an excellent job. I was very, very pleased. Got a chance to see him step forward and did a super job. On September 10th, we have a Cadillac Manufacturers Association and Michigan Manufacturers Association meeting, our kickoff meeting. It'll be at Rexair. Chuck Haddon, president of the MMA, will be up and talking about the ballot issues that comes up next year. That's very important to cities, schools, and to manufacturing, and that's personal property tax. And I have invited, of course, the city is a member of MMA, and so is the county, so they'll be there and be able to ask questions. We are the first in the state that MMA is holding these meetings with, because we have a mix of both public and private. And that issue is very important to manufacturing, and it's extremely important to public schools and cities and counties. That's it.
Thank you. I had a letter dropped off at my house by Gabby Chapman, who was the chairperson, she puts chairman of the 2013 Freedom Festival. She wanted to come tonight and share some of her excitement, and just instead wrote this note to Mayor Barnett and the members of the City Council, and she wanted to thank us, all of us, for our financial and overwhelming support of the 2013 Cadillac Freedom Festival. She looks forward to heading up next year's celebration and hopes that the 2014 Cadillac Freedom Festival will be bigger and better, and indicates thanks again, Gabby Chapman, Festival Chair and 2013 Freedom Festival Committee member. So she asked me to read that in lieu of her being present. Oh, did you remember?
I remember. All right.
Yes.
I wanted to say that the Freedom Festival that reminded me, the Freedom Choir is in Washington, D.C. right now as ambassadors of
The Patriot Choir.
the Patriot Choir. That's it. Thank you. See, it's been a long day, and they're there now. So I just would like to send our good wishes out to them and know that they will do us all proud. Our ambassadors.
Goodwill ambassadors. It has been a long day. Thank you for bringing that up. They left, I believe, at 5:30 from my neighborhood, or very close to it. But I want to thank Gabby for putting on the festival, and she did a great job, as well as the team that was in place. And maybe I can just pass that around for everybody to glance at while I continue. A couple things. The mic, I would like Mr. Petcha, if we have a chance, to figure out our microphone situation. There's a short in that cord that has continued to plague us for at least 3 months or more. I wanted to thank Gus and Mike and the gang who put together the Festival of Races, the Cadillac Festival of Races event that occurred Saturday, the band that played down there, Lee Richards Band, and all of the hard work and volunteerism that went together to bring a lot of people into Cadillac to enjoy a healthy activity and just have fun, and a different kind of fun in our city park. It was quite a scene, the different races they had, including folks standing up on the paddle boards, cutting through the lake. And anyway, it seems to be going in the direction they want it, and it's a big bonus for our community. And it was on a Saturday morning again, and it seemed to be enjoyed by a lot of folks and a great turnout. So thanks to Mike and Gus and Cadillac Physical Therapy, Dynamic Therapy. Sorry, I don't have the name right off my Dynamic Therapy, formerly Cadillac Physical Therapy. But they have a great thing going. They've taken it over and embraced it, and it's very nice to see that being so successful. So congratulations again. I was sorry I was so upset I came in here. It's just I've been extremely disappointed with the clerk situation. Just to let you know, there is going to be 3 interviews set for Thursday at 1 o'clock. Mr. Petcha has invited me to attend. Is that in the back room there, Marcus? Where are those interviews? Okay. I was very saddened for Kyle, and I'd asked the city to take a look at our hiring process and our policies. There's obviously a problem at that level, and I'd like it to be worked out. We've done a lot better job on other candidates, including traveling across the country for background checks, and what we did this time was less than what was necessary, and I'd like to apologize to the community for what happened, and I am again saddened for Kyle. He did well while he was here. Just some things did come up that were problematic. Art mentioned the safe routes to school, and I think that I'd like the city staff to take a look at the corner of Carmel and Stimson, which used to have a stop sign switch the other way around, and traffic would slow down on that road, which is going to the expanded jail at some point. It's also going to the businesses that are down there. If not businesses, there's a lot of commercial activity in doctors' offices that get a lot of traffic, but I've had complaints from the neighborhood that I'm in, and I've seen that stop sign switch from where it used to be and stop coming up Stimson, or actually come through on Stimson Street, and the folks that would come down the hill or up the hill would stop, but there's a blind spot there at the top, and I wondered if staff wouldn't want to survey the homeowners over there and see if they would support a 4-way stop there to assist in slowing down traffic that is out of control. I think that does it for tonight. I do appreciate everybody coming. We are going to flop over to Mr. Petcha again with
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm actually going to bounce it to Mike to read the language. I think there's been an amendment to it from earlier, so he rewrote it.
Well, I just want to clarify, there are 3 items tonight that we're going to discuss in closed session. The first would be the tax tribunal case, MTD docket 436393, which is Bigfoot versus City of Cadillac, and that would be a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss trial or settlement strategy with the city attorney and the city assessor in that case. The second matter would be to adjourn to closed session to discuss trial or settlement strategy with the city attorney and with Don and Gloria Boersma in the case of Herring versus City of Cadillac. And the third item is to adjourn to closed session to discuss a written confidential legal opinion of the city attorney.
Does that still include the item that we talked about?
Yes?
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there support for that motion?
Support.
And could we have is there any discussion about those? One of them,
We're just gonna have certain people in at certain times?
That's correct. So relative to those matters, that's right.
okay. Maybe we could take the Boersma matter first since they're here and could leave afterwards.
Well,
And Joe's here as well?
yeah, I think we should take the Bigfoot matter
Okay,
first.
very good. Could we have a vote, please?
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Motion carried. We're going into closed session. We'll be back in a little bit. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I think that's,
High five when you're ready. Okay, looks like we're back on the tube. Would someone wish to make a motion at this point?
I move to return to open session.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion and support to return to open session. And just let me check one thing. Sorry. Okay, let's have a vote, please.
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Councilmember Melama.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. We're back in open session, the motion is passed. And there is it there to report, if anything, Mr. Petcher, from our discussions in closed session this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Just a few quick things. One, I wanted to note for the public record that we did invite Jeff Dietland, our Utilities Director, as well as Mike Boersma to attend part of the closed session that we had this evening. Secondly, wanted to request that the City Council consider a motion to approve the stipulation agreement with Bigfoot Manufacturing and to authorize the City Attorney to execute the document.
I'll make that motion.
Support. Who supported?
there's a tie.
I had,
Sure.
okay, sure.
Okay, there's been a motion and support. Any discussion on the Bigfoot matter? Tax tribunal settlement by stipulation, anyone? Hearing no discussion. Mr. Petcher, could you please give us a roll call?
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Melama?
Yes.
Councilmember Spelman? Mayor Burnett?
Yes. Motion carried. Anything else, Mr. Petcher, for this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item would be to request a motion to direct the City Attorney as we discussed in closed session.
Okay. Where is council on this?
I'll make that motion as well.
And is there support for Councilmember Shippers' motion?
Support.
And is there discussion? I guess I will just say for following or investigating other options other than what's being recommended. I'll leave it at that based on the closed session discussions and the motion that's on the table. Could we please have a roll call?
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Spelman?
Yes.
Councilmember Melama?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
No. That's 4-1, and the matter passes. Motion passes. Anything else, Mr. Petcha, to let us know about today or as a result of our closed session?
Not at this time.
All right. I assume that is going to wrap it up, as that was the end of our matter, rather our agenda, and that is in fact the case, so I was double checking. So at this point, I'm going to break out the good news and indicate meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and those watching at home or on your computers. Meeting adjourned.